With its funding scheme, develoPVentures, the German Federal Ministry for Economic Cooperation and Development, BMZ, is targeting young companies and startups with innovative business models that create positive social and environmental impact. The overall goal is to help scale solutions that have already proven their value, and by doing so, to make these solutions accessible to more people. BMZ provides grants of up to €100,000, which are accompanied by tailor-made advisory services and can be topped up with additional grants if companies are successful. Does your company offer an innovative solution to increase, for example, access to renewable energy, healthcare, education, financial services, or local income? Then develoPVentures could be just right for you. So how does develoPVentures work? Startups can apply for funding during regular calls for applications. To participate, your company must have already existed for at least 1 year and must have achieved initial operating revenue as proof of concept. In addition, your business must generate positive societal effects in the country that you are investing in. Current develoPVentures portfolio companies are active in a variety of sectors, such as e-mobility, agritech, fintech, digitalization, health tech, or sustainable housing. If your company and business model qualify for support, the funding is awarded within a matching funds model. This means that in order to receive develoPVentures funding, you must acquire at least the same amount from other investors. Please keep in mind, all funds are provided only for direct business expansion and must be invested locally. develoPVentures is already available in several African countries, and more countries and regions will be added soon. You can find the country list, more information on the program, and all you need to apply on our website. By the way, women-led startups and startups that promote gender equality are particularly encouraged to apply. We look forward to your application.
Good morning, everybody, and a very warm welcome to all of those who have joined us to learn more about the develoPVentures program. I'm Keshni Morar, and I'm part of the Jozi Angels team here in South Africa. And joining me on the call this morning is an incredible team of people, like I always say, that I'm absolutely blessed to work with. And they are working endlessly behind the scenes to bring sustainable impact to this continent. So a very warm welcome to Bertel van Vught, from the GIZ, and to my local team, Sanjay, Sony, and Lisa Nelson from the Jozi Angels team, who are assisting in the full process. Today we are here to talk about a very exciting opportunity with the develoPVentures program, particularly focused on growing sustainable businesses in South Africa. I'm going to ask Bertel for a second here to please launch the first poll for this morning. I was going to say for this evening. I'm so used to doing this in the evening. For this morning on what business stage people are at. So a very warm welcome. I know we've got over 100 registrations, so people will come in and trickle in, but time is of the essence, and so we are going to continue. But before we do, I just would like to advise you that this webinar is currently being recorded. So by participating in today's event, please acknowledge that the recording will be shared publicly on LinkedIn and other social media platforms. And if you do not wish for this to be recorded, we recommend that you refrain from joining the session and perhaps catch up on the recording later. Also refrain from putting any personal information into the chat, because that may become public, and that's not what we intend. So to protect yourself, please be very wary of what you put into the chat. However, with that also in mind, please share with us about your business, perhaps your LinkedIn profile, where people can get hold of you. And also use the chat below to post any questions as we go along. Lisa will be collating them in the back, and she will have them ready for the Q&A session. Further that, please keep all your mics on mute and your videos off to save bandwidth and to prevent any buffering during the session. In terms of your questions, please keep them succinct and to the point. And if you need to get more context in terms of your business, please do put that context in the question. And if there is a chance for you to come up live and ask your question, we will definitely allow for that. So for now, I'm going to say, I'm just going to give this another second for you to, another few minutes, second to complete the polls. And I just want to let you guys know as well that we do appreciate you being here on this very cool Tuesday morning in South Africa. And the weather is doing its bit around on us. But nonetheless, opportunities like this warm us up, because this initiative is brought to you by the GIZ on behalf of the German Federal Ministry of Economic Cooperation and Development, the BMZ. The GIZ is supported by the International Startup Ecosystem Building Organization, VC4A, and the local community-driven angel investment group, Jozi Angels, supporting the implementation of the Develop Ventures program here in South Africa. This program is all about supporting promising startups that show commercial viability and are ready to scale the operations in South Africa. So quickly, I'm just going to end the poll there. I think we've got most people already here. Let me share those results as well. We've got a few people at the idea stage, many at the MVP pre-revenue. Guys, with MVP plus post-revenue, you're in a good space. Seed stage, definitely welcome, and Series A or later. So I'm so glad you guys are here, because you never know when you are going to be eligible for this, whether it's now or in the future. So it's always good to know this information. I'm just going to stop that and get it out of my way there. So what are we going to cover today? We're going to cover an overview of the Develop Ventures program. What does it mean? Why they're here? What they intend to achieve with it? How to go about applying for this funding? What is match funding? We're going to cover a bit on that, because I know a lot of South Africans have the question, what is match funding? We don't really hear about it. So Bertel's going to take us through that. That's quite exciting. I think it's a very exciting opportunity for us. And then we'll give you a bit of, we'll give you contact details for the team if you have any further questions beyond this. And we'll then jump into a quick Q&A. So again, I encourage you, use the chat for your questions, keep them succinct, where necessary, add the detail needed to provide context. So let's kick off. Develop Ventures is actually like every other business. Let's just start there. Like every startup, every business that's out there, we as Develop Ventures need to be very clear about who the target market is. Right now, we are seeking out young for-profit companies who are already in market and have shown reasonable product market fit and therefore are revenue generating. What does that mean in plain English? You solve a problem that people want to pay you to solve. That's product market fit. And so we want those types of businesses that are existing in the market already, not at an idea stage, not too far on that they've already got the investment. We're trying to get those at that crucial stage, and at the very crucial stage where they're starting to scale. So the types of activities that are supported through this process is centered around for-profit and innovative and scalable business models that are commercially viable. It's also important to understand that although we are looking for commercially viable early stage businesses, the business must support one or more of the UN SDG goals. This is a match funding program, and we will cover what does that mean in a bit. So eligible companies who qualify, you need to be registered in South Africa. So SIPC registration is important. You need to have that. You could have a holding company somewhere else, but you have to have a local entity registered with SIPC. You must have a bank account here in South Africa. You must be privately owned and profit orientated. Your company must have already generated some sort of revenue. It doesn't have to be in the millions, but there has to be proof of the concept that you can show. You need to have a sound business and financial model and plan that is commercially viable. Very, very important. You need at least 1 year of annual financial statements. These can be audited, reviewed, or compiled. And you would have had to have the matching funds. This is quite crucial. So please get a notebook. Get a notebook. You will get the recording. This is quite key as well. And then you must not have raised more than 2 million euros in funding to date. And that's about approximately 40 million rand. Finally, you need to be financially sustainable. Minimum, in terms of your business model itself, it needs to be innovative and it must serve people in South Africa. It must have good prospects for scaling up. You must be able to measure all the contributions that your business model and your financial model says it does. So you must be able to track it through its life cycle and be able to report on it as required. Which leads me to the next one. You have to have reporting requirements in place to track your progress against your business KPIs. And KPIs will be based very specifically on your business. Did I miss something? Nope, got it. So I'm going to hand over and I'm going to ask Bertel from VC4A to please come and explain to us about the funding conditions and what match funding is actually. Bertel?
Thanks, Kashni. When you introduced me, you said I was from GIZ, although I work very closely with them, and it does feel sometimes I do work for them. I'm with VC4A, so we're an international organization supporting startups in Africa and Latin America and other developing countries around the world. We've been doing that for about 15 years, and we are very proud to implement the develoPVentures program in different markets, in Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Nigeria, and now for the first time in South Africa. So if any one of you in the audience is in one of the other countries I just mentioned, the call for applications is currently also open. But this webinar is, of course, very much focused on South Africa. So yeah, matching funding. I think it is very important for you guys to understand, and I think Kashni alluded to it already, is that this program is really aimed at companies that are in the early growth stage and that have convinced other financiers of their model. And so it's aimed at giving you an additional push in the back to extend your runway by this 100,000 euro matching grant, but only if you have at least 100,000 euro investment in, and that also has to be secured in the first half of this calendar year, so basically starting from January 2024. Or if you are very close to securing this, you can also still apply, and then if that or when that comes together, you know, in the months after applying, so I mean July, August, maybe to a certain extent September, we can still consider you, but you will have to give us insights in who you're talking to and what the stage of that conversation is. Like, did you receive a term sheet, for instance? You know, you have to convince us that that you're close to securing that funding. And as we're looking for scalable and innovative businesses, the preference goes to companies that have secured an equity investment. So the ideal scenario for the program is that you've secured 100,000 or more in an equity round. But we all know that a lot of angels use safes, for instance. So it's future equity. This is fine. It can also be debt or a combination between equity and debt. There can also be a component of another grant in there, but it cannot be an entire grant to fill the 100,000. So up to 50,000 euro can be a grant, and then 50,000 has to come from a commercial investor, preferably equity or debt. So that is quite important. The other thing that is important is that we want to see proof that you've actually spent the money that you got from the other source before we are disbursing the grant to you. This is just to to make sure that this money is actually this money that you got from the other source is actually used in the business. So you have to show that you used it for payroll or for investments into your business in terms of capital expenditure for new machines or other things that you're building or that you need to grow the business. Yeah, and then I think I said it all. I think one of the other things that is important is that this is and there was a question about this in the chat already. This is not project finance, like, oh, I want to do this pilot or I want to test this out or I'm planning to do this new thing and I want to test it out with this grant. No, it's really aimed at your core activity. So you should be able to convince us and the reviewers of how this 100,000 additional capital and also the technical assistance that is part of this program will help you to expand your core activity and grow your business and your traction as a result. And it has to be aimed at South Africa. So you cannot get this money by saying, I want to scale to Mozambique or to other countries across Africa or even internationally. This program is really aimed at expansion in South Africa and having more of your product or service available to more South Africans. And then, yeah, there is definitely quite a lot of documentation and verification going to happen as part of this process. So if you, and we'll talk about the process in a sec, but if you qualify to continue into the further sort of assessments or other rounds where we will look at your business, we will ask for additional information on paper, but we will also come and visit you when you qualify for the next stage. And to really spend the day with you in your office and meet your team and your investors and your clients and all these things. So in that way, it is a proper due diligence exercise, which is comparable to what commercial investors are doing. Or some people have even said to us that it's more rigorous and that we're looking at more things because we are basically spending public money from the German government. So we have to be entirely sure that this money is going to businesses that are a fit, and there are no red flags, as they say in investor language, that are questions that cannot be answered or doubts that we have about your intentions. So I think that's it about the funding conditions. If there are questions about this, and I'm sure there are, I'll stay on the call and also try to answer some of these questions later on. Back to you, Kashni.
Thank you so much, Bertel. That was a lot. So I hope everybody got the crux of why and how this whole thing happens. And so please drop those questions into the chat and we are going to get to it shortly. In the meanwhile, to give you just a few case studies, this has been running in other countries like Bertel has mentioned. In Kenya, Mobitel has come up with a brilliant solution that helps the bus system actually revolutionize the public transport system. Now, if we know the taxis in South Africa and how riddled they are with corruptions and inefficiencies, Kenya has managed to, with Mobitel, actually almost regulate that or bring some sort of structure and robust digital payment infrastructure and management solution to that sector. And that has actually promoted many, many things, from new jobs to profit, to making the bus system a little more profitable, and also, just overall creating better lives for the passengers that drive or that take that transport. So there's no transformation that's too small that can't be considered. Sometimes the simplest things always are one of the best to actually invest in. So you never really know what you could come up with or what you already have that could be life-changing for South Africans, right? If we go to Western Kenya, we know this all too well with load shedding. I think all of us are just anticipating it. But Kudura, who came up with private mini grids using solar panels and renewable energy, they've managed to save 33 metric tons of CO2, create 47 jobs, and provide 4,000 households with energy. Now, 4,000 may not seem like a lot in the larger scheme of things, but it's making an impact to people in the country. So we're hoping to see a lot more innovative and impactful businesses come through this program for South Africa, and we are absolutely excited to help support that. So what you're here for is to understand how to actually apply for this funding. Now, develoPVentures, we've been open since the 15th of May. It closes this Sunday at midnight, 30th of June. And it's available, like Bertel said, in 4 countries right now. Sorry, 5. South Africa, Kenya, Tanzania, Rwanda, and Nigeria. This call specifically is for South Africa, but the application link that's on screen, and Lisa will drop it into the chat as well, is available for all these countries. Now, the overall process and timelines that we follow, the application process, like I mentioned, closes on the 30th of June. That is a non-negotiable. We cannot extend that, and we cannot accept applications post that date. Should we receive anything post that, it will not be considered. Next up, once we get through that, because of the volumes we've already received, between the 1st and the 19th of July, the team will sit down with GIZ, and the GIZ will go through everything. So not just the GIZ, VC4, and Jozi Angels will go through all the pre-screening and assessment of the applications in depth, looking at every single document that was provided to us during the application process, and a pre-selection will be done. Once that is done, a handful of qualifying startups will be invited to pitch on a specific day on the 1st of August to a panel of judges that are made up of a number of people from GIZ, as well as independent experts in the various sectors and investment areas. Once, for those who qualify through the pitch, which will be a 5-minute pitch most likely, and will be followed by a thorough Q&A of their business and every aspect of it. If you pass that stage, that gate opens up you to due diligence, which Bertel had spoken about earlier. That due diligence means we will come to your premises, we will have a look at everything, we will speak to people in your business, your customers, your investors, and so forth. It's an extremely thorough due diligence that will happen with selected few who get through the pitch stage. If you pass the due diligence, you will get into the contracting stage, and that happens over a period of time between September and November for funding to flow by December. Not just the funding that happens in December, but you will also get access to technical assistance with the grant. So the technical assistance component is over and above the grant that is allocated to your business. And that's also a very crucial component to ensure the success of your business as you utilize these funds. In terms of contacting us, the local team is available. Please drop us an email at develoPVentures@joziangels.co.za, and one of us will get to it and respond to you promptly. So, without further ado, I actually want to open up to the Q&A, and I'm going to ask Lisa if you could. I'm going to stop sharing, yeah? Lisa, do you have the Q&A ready?
Hi, Keshni. Yes, I've got it ready. It's on the document we've shared. It's at the bottom.
Would you mind? Yeah, would you mind sharing the first question?
Okay, I'll do that. Can you elaborate on your understanding of the digital component, especially in a farming context?
So, Bertel, would you like to take that one?
So in the farming context, I would assume that that's like a traditional farm, or is there something innovative about this farm?
Let's say it's a normal farm. A
Yeah,
traditional.
so I think one of the very important program criteria is the innovative approach of the business model. And so a regular farm, there are thousands of those farms in South Africa, right? So if there's no sign of innovation or them doing something radically different, then it will be very hard for the program to select this company, right? So we are looking at entrepreneurs that come up with innovative solutions and therefore standing out from others. The other thing is scalability. So a regular farm, if you want to scale a regular farm, you need more farmland. You often need more employees. You often need more inputs to outgrow. There's all kinds of, you know, things you need to just double or triple or quadruple to be able to scale it. And therefore you would not easily get this scalability factor that a lot of investors are often looking for, where technology elements in the business allow you to reach more customers without growing your expenditure at the same rate. So I think that that would be my answer to that. If the person who asked the question is on the call, I'm happy to hear if this is sufficient or if there are additional questions.
Okay, Elizabeth, I did see you coming in, so if you've got additional questions, please post it or just put your hand up and then we can take it from there. We've had quite a few questions around the matching funds. The most recent one is they just want to confirm the matched funding needs to have been received in the first 6 months of this year.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I think
Would
what we
any-
need to clarify, sorry, Lisa, what we need to
Okay.
clarify there is they've had to receive my funding in the first 6 months, so by July, but Bertel, please correct me if I'm wrong. They have until the closing of the due diligence to close off their round, but they must have spent at least 80% of when I say 80%, 80% is we're assuming that you've raised at least 100,000 euros within this last 6 months, and you would have spent 80% of it to qualify.
Yeah. But the 80% part is not excluding you from this process if you haven't done that yet, right? So we have seen in other cycles of this program, people who have recently closed the round and then therefore still have the majority of the money in the account. This is fine. The only thing we are then saying is first spend that money before we disperse the money as part of this program. So it doesn't exclude you from this process if the money has not been spent. It's just a requirement for disbursement.
And Bertel, is the minimum 100,000 euro?
The minimum is 100,000 euro. There have been cases where it was just below that. So I would say if it's 90,000 euro, it would still be assessed. But if it's way below that, then that does not qualify. So yeah, I would say let's say around 100,000 euro. Yeah.
Okay, and then the next question. Would any kind of angel investor count towards matching funds, or would they need to be professional investors? Would clients of ours investing as angels qualify, for example?
Yes,
If they put in money into the business in return for an equity stake or a safe or another model that sort of pushes the valuation out a bit, that's fine. It can even be a loan with an interest and a repayment scheme. What it cannot be is, for instance, sweat equity. So if somebody says, "Oh, I'll work for your business for free for 6 months, and therefore I get a share in your company," that does not qualify. So we have to see that there's actually money coming into the company's bank account, and there's a shareholder agreement with the investor. So it does not have to be a fund or an angel syndicate. It can be just a person putting money into your business, but there has to be a monetary transaction. Yeah.
Okay, and Bertel, if founders take their personal funds from their private reserves and they invest it into their business, would that count?
There are cases that would count, but we are preferably, like I said in the beginning, looking at other people that are convinced about your model. So if this is in a way a competitive process, so if we have a lot of other companies in the funnel that have convinced other investors, not the founding team, to invest, they would be preferred and get a first look. If for some reason we do not find enough of those, then we will also look at the ones that have put in their own money as a new round. And therefore we will also then look into the documentation to see, how that was structured and how it was spent. So yeah, it can be considered, but it's not the ideal scenario.
Okay, thanks. And then if secured, how long is the develop grant available, given that you want 80% of the matched funding to be spent before accessing funds?
Yeah, so I don't know did we look at like all the different stages of the process? I'm happy to also talk it through again. So there's a deadline of 30 June. Then we will go into the process of assessing every application. So every application will be assessed and looked at. If that application meets certain, criteria, and we see that there's a fit to the program, they will be invited to a pitch event. Yeah. And that will be in August, where companies will present themselves and have a Q&A with the jury. Of most of the jury members are investors in the South African space, so they will know very well what to look out for. Once the jury is convinced and we are convinced, we will invite up to 10 companies for due diligence, where we come and visit you. And then we will ask for additional information in a data room. And once everything checks out and we are convinced, we will work towards a contract with you. In that contract, there will also be commercial and impact KPIs defined together with you to then track your progress in 1 year. And that year starts when you have spent 80% of the matching funds. So there's no scenario that if you pass through all of those stages, if it would take you too long to spend the 80%, that this grant would somehow run out or disappear. If you make it into the program and you sign the contract, the money will be there. It's just a matter of when have you reached that 80% threshold before the money is dispersed. The technical assistance, so us doing a needs assessment, and you get support from consultants who can help you with your particular issues, that can already start prior to the 80% spent. So long story short, there's no way that this will run out or expire once you're selected. And the program is for 1 year. Maybe it's also good to say that if you meet all the commercial and impact KPIs during that year, there is also a phase B possible. So with some of the companies that do really well, we can also then go into a conversation about a second phase in the program, where there is also a matching funding criteria, but we can go up to 200,000 euro when you get additional capital in, and also technical assistance to help you scale up further. So that's for the companies that get selected and meet all of the KPIs that have been defined in year 1.
Bertel, if the minimum is 100,000 in matching funds, what's the maximum?
The maximum is 2 million euro in total raised to date. So if you have raised more than 2 million euro to date, you are considered too advanced or too far ahead for this program to make any relevant or to be relevant, because if you have so much money raised, then the 100,000 euro is a relatively sort of small amount, and the program will not, you know, really move the needle for you so much. So if you don't have 2 million euro raised to date, you are still eligible.
We want to just also clarify that it's the matching fund is capped at 100,000 euros. So
Yeah.
you won't be matched for anything over 100,000 euros.
Yeah, so if you have raised
get enough.
200 or 300,000 euro, then the program will just bring in the 100,000 in the first year. Yeah. Yeah.
Perfect.
Bertel, given that the GIZ is running various programs, does involvement in another program exclude you from being eligible from this program? And is jobs the main development outcome? How do we avoid double counting?
Great question. Great question. The short answer is no, you will not be excluded from the program if you're also part of other GIZ programs. However, if we see that you are part of a lot of programs that also provide grants and you don't have the commercial traction and you don't have the commercial investors on your cap table, then the chances of being selected for this one are quite slim. So yeah, I'm repeating myself, but it's really important that you have convinced commercial investors of your model and not rely on other GIZ programs or other donor-funded programs or other grant programs only. And jobs is a major outcome, of course, providing direct or indirect jobs as part of your operations. But I would say the biggest one we're looking for is how your product or service is improving the lives of your customers. And ideally, these customers are not only you know, urban, high income segments of the society, but the broader general public in South Africa. So if you have a product or a service that is touching the lives of many people, that is what we're looking for.
Okay, and Bertel, there are two questions that are very similar. For those who haven't actively fundraised this year yet, will there be future rounds of this program? And then a similar question to that is, someone saw that there's another grant available towards the second half of this year.
Yeah,
and when is that application deadline?
There's definitely the intention to do this program in South Africa for the unforeseeable future. What is not entirely clear yet is if we will do a second call this calendar year, starting in November, ending on 31st December, or if it would happen in the first part of 2025. So we hope to know that quite soon, but at the moment we can't guarantee that it will happen towards the end of this year, but we hope that that's going to happen. Long answer short, this program is intended to stay in South Africa. This is the first cycle. And if this is not the right time for you, there will be another opportunity for you to engage later on.
Okay, and then back into the farming question a bit earlier. Elizabeth got back to us. She mentions that it's investment in automated data capture and analysis, automation of processing and monitoring and evaluation.
Yeah, if that sounds quite innovative. So if you have an innovative approach to make farming more yielding more crops, or you know, streamlining the process in a way that is unique, that no others are doing it, and you're developing something that is really increasing outcomes and work towards, you know, more food being available regionally or for the whole country or for the continent, and it's a product that can scale your operations, or you would make it available to others to use, then that can definitely be considered. Of course, we need more information than just this, but it looks like it's more than just, you know, traditional farming practices.
Okay, and then since this is a grant, do you expect an exit strategy in the business plan?
We're not expecting an exit strategy. What we're expecting is to see in your financial plan a scenario where you would at least break even in 3 years from now. So that is what we're looking for, a model that, yeah, convinces us that within 3 years you will reach a break-even point, meaning your costs are the same as your income, and preferably, of course, there would be a profit within 3 years, or you're already making a profit now. But most businesses that are sort of in that early growth stage are still making a loss, which is fine, as long as you can show your plan and a reasonable plan towards that sort of profitability. Yeah, not an exit strategy so much.
Okay. Brandon says he has a portfolio of about 30 companies and several haven't needed 100,000 euro yet. They are post-revenue, and we have been lean and creative with how we cover costs up to now. They may only have received a grant or investment up to 50,000 Rand or so. If they are DQ'd, or should they apply and leave the decision to the committee?
If they only have received grants so far, they won't be eligible for this program. And also 50,000 Rand is below the amount that we're looking for. So it looks like these companies are too early for the program at the moment. But when they scale up and are raising commercial capital, they can become eligible later on.
I think we also
Okay.
sorry,
Okay,
Lisa,
sorry, Kish, you go.
I think we also need to acknowledge that not all businesses will raise capital from angel investors or VCs. And so those types of businesses most likely will not qualify for this grant. And there's a very big link to that, because we want to make sure that those that we are backing are very scalable businesses. Now, there's a difference between growth and scalability. Every business has the ability to grow. However, think Uber. Uber is highly scalable, whereas Nando's is not, unless they have a physical location in a specific place. Whereas Uber is a touch of a button, and they can, through technology, scale the globe, right? They don't need a physical presence in a certain country. So if you want to think about scalability and growth, think about it in kind of that perspective. And I know it's a bit confusing for some people, but yeah.
Okay, so Brandon came back, he said it's 50,000 euro. And Bertel, you mentioned a bit earlier, you look at a minimum threshold of about 80,000 euro.
It's a competitive process. So if there are a lot of companies that have the 100,000 or more, then those are preferred. And then, you know, if we don't find those companies in the funnel, then we will sort of also look at the ones. Yeah, 80, I would say, is the bare minimum, but more around like 90,000, around 90, around 100, we can consider. But if it's lower than that, it won't qualify.
Most recent question, if we've closed around a year ago and we're reaching 80% spent mark, could that be counted? We haven't needed to raise again.
Yeah, the answer is that we want to see how the money that you've raised is contributing to the plan that you've submitted, as sort of how you are spending your round and the matching funds. And so if you only have 20% left, and that is only giving you 1 month or 2 months runway from now, then we consider our matching grant sort of core financing to keep your company going. While if you have raised quite recently, then the money that we put on top is sort of extending your runway and giving you quite a large chance of sort of implementing that for the next year or so. What we don't intend to put this grant towards is just to cover your minimum expenses and sort of extend your immediate sort of short runway, if you get what I mean. So that's why the 6 months fresh equity requirement is there. But again, this is a competitive process, so you can try to apply, and then we will look at your model, and if it is meeting the program requirements, and then there can still be a chance that we would contact you for more information. But the preferred situation is that you still have some of the money in your account that you raised, and we are sort of giving you a push in the back to work on that approach that you propose in your proposal as how you want to use the grant, if that makes sense.
Then the other question, what if you are serving the SME market? She mentions that she heard you looking for a B2C model.
I didn't say B2C.
Oh.
Oh, okay.
We've seen quite a number of businesses that are serving the SME market in the past. For instance, bookkeeping solutions. So making it easier for SMEs to do digital payments, transact digitally, for instance. So the POS, point of sales systems, or bookkeeping systems that make it easier for them to keep track of their income and expenditures, to also do payroll for their employees, or to file their tax returns and things like that. Those kind of companies are definitely interesting for us as they serve the SME market. There are also companies that provide products, so provide stock to SMEs, to small shops, at great prices, and avoiding these shop owners to having to go to the market very early and buy their produce. Things like that are definitely of interest. So it can be B2B, it can be B2C, it can be B2G, to government. It doesn't really matter. We don't have a preference for a particular business model, nor do we have a preference for a particular sector. So this is quite open in terms of model and sector.
Okay, thanks, Bertel. Next question. Is a letter of commitment from a funder acceptable as proof of funding?
Well, it's not proof of funding, I would say, but it definitely helps. So it's like a commitment to say that they plan to invest. What we would then ask for is a term sheet as a next step. So we cannot contract companies into the program without an investment actually happen, that has happened. So if there's an intention, if there's a term sheet, these things, they count towards convincing us that there's something coming. But before we can contract a company in this program, we need to see the actual deal that has happened with the documents that support it and the money that has been wired into the company account. If that didn't happen, then we cannot contract you as part of this program. But letters like that and term sheets like that do help to convince us that it's coming very soon.
Okay, and still on funding. So just to make sure they understand, we can say get a lending from a bank to match the GIZ funds. For example, for those of us already VC funded, we can use this as a bridge rather than getting more equity funding. Is that correct?
Yeah, that is also a possibility. Yeah.
Okay. And what's the desired balance between social and commercial impacts?
Yeah, that's a very good question. So we strongly believe that the only way businesses can create social impact is when they operate on a financially healthy model or a commercially viable model. I think in the past we've seen a lot of impact first businesses that didn't have their model, that didn't set up their model correctly. And so their impact goals were great, but and some early impact was definitely created, but then they run into trouble financially and they have to close shop. And then long term, there's no impact, right? So we first and foremost look at the financials and at the traction you've gotten in terms of the income, the financial income, and then we look at your social and or environmental impact. So if I would have to sort of put it on the scale, I would say financial impact is more important than the social impact, because if you don't have a financially sound model, then the impact will not be generated and also not be scaled.
Just something again on the technical assistance, Bertel. It's been mentioned that technical assistance would be provided in addition to the funds. So what does the technical assistance entail? Is it human capital, or what does it involve?
Yes, so it's additional. So indeed, the 100,000 is hard cash, and then the technical assistance is added on top. What this means is that as part of the process, we will do a needs analysis with you when you're contracted into the program, which means that you will answer a list of questions, and there will be conversations around what you also believe are some of the areas that you are struggling with, or where you need support from experts about. And then a TA plan, a technical assistance plan, is created, and then we will find the right consultants. Also with your input, if you know people who you think can be helpful, we will definitely also assess those, and then present to you a plan and the people who we believe can be of support to work with you for around 10 person days. And then that plan is just put into practice, and you would work directly with a consultant or with different consultants on predefined goals that you set together. And instead of you having to pay the bill, the program picks up the bill from the consultant. So it's definitely a paid for service by professionals who charge for their days. It's not mentorship. It's not sort of, like maybe I have time next week, maybe we can have a coffee. No, it's really, very serious support from people that have earned their stripes in their fields.
And what is the deadline to have the funds invested in order to qualify in time?
The funds invested into your business. So I think
Yeah.
we said it before. So ideally between January and now, that you got the investment in. If you're very close to securing a new round, we can also still consider you if you can show us sort of proof or names of people you're talking to, and get that investment in between July and early September.
And just to confirm, it's definitely matching funds. It's not turnover generated from sales.
Yes, it's new capital coming into the business from other sources than your own business. Yeah.
Okay. How many companies are you aiming to fund in this round?
Very good question. So we will visit 10 companies. We aim to visit 10 companies as part of the due diligence, and we hope and expect to fund at least 6 of those. But it really determines, it's determined by the outcomes of the DD. So in a good case, it can be even 7 or 8 companies. In worst case, it can be 4. So if you are selected for the due diligence process, doesn't mean that you will be selected and contracted for this program, because as you are most likely aware, there are a lot of things we're looking for. And if there are things that don't check out or we're not convinced, there might be a scenario where we are not selecting you. We will then tell you why. And you can then also try again next time. But the safe answer is anything between 4 and 8, I think.
Okay. And let's say they have raised their matching fund, but now the company gets into a positive position and they don't use the matching funding in their business. So they don't get to a stage where they actually put that 80% of the capital raised back into the business. Would there be assistance in identifying such partners? Second half of the question.
So if they don't need the money that they raised, then they also don't need the money from this program, right? I would say. that would be my sort of blunt, direct answer. If the money is not invested into the business and maybe even given back to the funder, then I wouldn't see why the business would need the money from this program.
Okay, and another question. If the debt funding is coming from expansion for hardware in the telecommunications industry, and we've raised R1 million, can you match that?
R1 million, that's...
Yeah, it's debt funding. So if the debt funding is coming from expansion for
About
hardware
50,000
in
euros.
telecommunications.
It's about 50,000 euros.
Yeah, so that would be an amount that's too low to be considered. And also, yeah, all of the program criteria are, of course, looked at. So I don't know from the example, I don't know if those criteria would be met, but the amount that you mentioned seems to be too low to be considered.
Okay. Bertel, we've covered all the questions posed so far. I saw one coming through again from Elizabeth. Just a quick reminder, we've got 4 minutes left on this call. Question, what if the investment is used to create or provide impetus to additional income streams?
It's a bit hard to answer without context, but yeah, I think we said earlier, this program is not aimed at sort of funding trials or pilots. It's really aimed at contributing to the core activity of the business. So it sounds a little bit like, you know, we want to try an additional income stream and we want to fund that potentially with this grant. That's not what we're looking for. We're really looking for an expansion of the core activities of the business.
That's it. We've reached the end of our questions. Keshni, Bertel?
Firstly, thank you so much for joining us then I was going to keep on saying this evening, this morning, everybody. This has been quite a nice discussion and we'd like to continue this. But please keep in mind, today is the 25th of June. There's only 5 days left to apply. So please get onto those applications. They're quite in depth. We do ask for much documentation. And if you do have any further questions, Lisa, have you dropped the link into the chat with the link tree and all the links?
Yeah, I've dropped it, but I'll do it again.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Please reach out. We know that this is quite an opportunity, guys. It's almost 2 million rand up in grant funding that's not repayable, and you get technical support. So we can't even tell you how excited we are about this. And we want to show that South Africa has got a lot of potential. So please get your applications in. Make sure you meet the eligibility criteria. Again, not sure, reach out, please. We are here to assist. Other than that, please, everybody have a lovely day further. Stay warm, stay safe, and we look forward to seeing your applications come through.
Alrighty, thank you.
Bye.